History of Ukraine. The history of Ukraine can be traced back to ancient times when various Slavic tribes inhabited the region. In the 9th century, the Varangian warrior Oleg of Novgorod conquered the area and established the state of Kievan Rus, which included parts of modern-day Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus. Kiev became the capital of Kievan Rus, and it was the center of cultural and political activity for several centuries. In the 13th century, the Mongol Empire invaded and conquered Kievan Rus, leading to the fragmentation of the state into several smaller principalities. In the 14th century, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania and the Kingdom of Poland formed a union, which included most of Ukraine. During this time, the Ukrainian people were mostly peasants and lived under the rule of the Polish and Lithuanian nobility. In the late 16th century, the Ukrainian Cossacks emerged as a distinct social group. They were originally hired by the Polish nobility to provide military support, but they eventually rebelled against their employers and formed their own independent state known as the Cossack Hetmanate. The Hetmanate was recognized by the Russian Empire in the late 17th century and became a protectorate of Russia. During the 19th century, Ukraine was part of the Russian Empire and experienced a period of Russification. The Ukrainian language was banned in schools, and the use of Russian was enforced. In the early 20th century, Ukraine experienced significant political upheaval, with the establishment of the Ukrainian People's Republic in 1917 and its subsequent annexation by the Soviet Union in 1922. Under Soviet rule, Ukraine experienced significant economic and cultural development, but also suffered from political repression and famine. During World War II, Ukraine was invaded by Nazi Germany and suffered significant losses. The city of Kiev was devastated during the war, and many Ukrainians fought on both sides of the conflict. After the war, Ukraine became a republic within the Soviet Union and experienced significant economic growth. However, the Soviet government continued to suppress Ukrainian national identity and dissent. In 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear disaster occurred in Ukraine, causing widespread damage and contamination. In 1991, Ukraine declared independence from the Soviet Union following its collapse. The country experienced significant political and economic upheaval in the years that followed, including a period of hyperinflation and political corruption. In 2004, the Orange Revolution occurred, which was a series of protests that led to the overturning of a fraudulent presidential election. Since then, Ukraine has continued to struggle with political instability, economic challenges, and ongoing conflict in the eastern regions of the country. In 2014, mass protests in the capital city of Kiev led to the ousting of President Viktor Yanukovych, who was seen as pro-Russian. Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine in the same year, and a conflict between Ukrainian government forces and Russian-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine began. The conflict has continued to this day, with periodic ceasefire agreements and ongoing tensions between Ukraine and Russia.